Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Deep Penetration Podcast. I am Danny, and today we are talking about the grass is greener mentality and this driving need for perfection, right? This episode is called The Myth of the Perfect Partner: Why Your Standards Are Sabotaging Your Love Life. So, make sure you are subscribing to the podcast and all of my other platforms if you want to hear more content like this episode. And I will also provide for you in the description of this episode a link to the free gift, which is the ultimate guide to dating for gay and bisexual men. And I also offer a free discovery call for anybody who is serious about coaching or has considered coaching before, and they just kind of have been afraid to pull the trigger. So if this is you, if you have considered coaching before and you're just not necessarily sure what to anticipate or what to expect, the discovery call is for you. Okay, boys. So this is a topic that I've been talking about for quite some time, right? I've also talked about this before, but it's been a minute. So I wanted to talk about it again, right? And I was inspired to talk about it because I've had a string of sessions with individuals who are seeking a level of perfection within their relationships that is just not realistic. Right? And I need you guys to hear me when I say this to you. The need for perfection is oftentimes rooted in insecurities. So most people that I have met that are hyper-focused on having the perfect life have a low self-esteem. And the reason for that low self-esteem can vary, right, depending on the individual and your experiences. So for example, growing up in an unstable environment can result in the need for control. Being bullied at a young age can result in a deep desire to be accepted, driving the need to be successful. A traumatic experience with a loved one, a partner, which has resulted in the need for finding the perfect partner to avoid getting hurt, right? Feeling disadvantaged based on your sexual orientation. So that drives the need to dispel the stigma attached to being gay or bisexual or lesbian or whatever the case may be, right? There are many different reasons why a person would consider themselves a perfectionist. The problem is you usually only look at the surface reasons opposed to digging deeper to understand why it's there in the first place. So we're going to dig a little deeper in the episode to try and understand perfectionism a little more. The myth of the perfect partner and how it's impacting your dating life. So if you consider yourself to be a perfectionist or have dated a perfectionist in the past, you'll want to stick around until the end of the episode. So let's define what perfectionism is, right? So I scoured the internet looking for the definition, and I came across a lot of generic descriptions, but there was an article that was posted on Psychology Today. If you are not familiar with the website, I would highly recommend checking it out. And it was titled Perfectionism, right? Super straightforward there. And I liked this article. And in the article, it defines perfectionism as a trait that makes life an endless report card on accomplishments and looks, right? And when healthy, right, when perfectionism is healthy, it can be self-motivating. It can drive you to overcome adversity and achieve success. But when it's unhealthy, it can be a fast and enduring track to unhappiness. So I'm sure you are probably thinking to yourself, okay, well, how do I differentiate between healthy and unhealthy perfectionists so that I know where I fall on the scale? So healthy perfectionism, or wanting to improve yourself, striving for a higher standard, would be some of the healthy traits would be high standards, detail-oriented, resilience. That's a really good one. Organized, right? So approaching life and its tasks in a systematic way. There's also discipline. Discipline is a really great thing, a super healthy thing. There's a focus on self improvement and wanting to better yourself and wanting to test your individual limits. There's adaptability. That one's a really good trait or really good characteristic as well. The unhealthy versions of perfectionism are fear of failure, right? Procrastination, that's a big one that a lot of us experience. Overly critical, inflexibility, so an unwillingness to compromise or to flex on certain thoughts or situations. There's excessive stress, which can result in a lot of anxiety and can result in this kind of analysis paralysis type situation. There's being a workaholic. That's also a negative attribute to being a perfectionist. There's avoidance. And I feel like a lot of people are avoidant nowadays. There's a lack of satisfaction. So you're never really happy with what you achieve. Low self-esteem. So your self-worth is tied to your achievements, but you never really feel satisfied because you're always resetting the bar. And I would say those are some of the primary traits of somebody who is showing brain, I need you to work. Who is showing signs of negative perfectionism, right? So how is any of this applicable to dating and relationships? So I wanted to give 10 ways that being a perfectionist can negatively impact your dating life and your relationships. The first one is unrealistic expectations. And what this often looks like is setting unattainably high standards that nobody can ever live up to, which usually results in frustration and resentment on both ends. You get frustrated because, the person doesn't care enough, and your partner gets frustrated because they feel like nothing that they do is good enough for you. The second thing is here is fear of vulnerability. In order for a relationship to work, you have to be willing to open up and share your fears. And part of being in a relationship and allowing your partner to see your flaws and to be a support system is sharing those things, right? And letting them be that support system and letting them be there for you and letting them show you that you're not alone in this situation. But the problem with being a perfectionist is that you struggle to let people in. You don't want them to see your flaws and your insecurities. And so you only show them what you want to show them. The third thing here is overcriticism, right? So perfectionism goes hand in hand with negative self-talk. So constantly telling yourself you aren't good enough or you haven't attained the level of success you want, which results in creating these unrealistic goals and expectations for yourself. So whether that's physical goals, whether that's career goals, whether that's relationship goals, whatever the case may be, and that means you expect the same from your partners. But if you aren't happy with what you've achieved, what are you expecting your partner to achieve for you, right? Just a question to ask yourself. The fourth thing is difficulty with compromise. So relationships require a level of compromise and flexibility. So if you are someone who is a perfectionist, you'll probably find it really hard to relinquish control. And it's likely you've been doing things your way for such a long time that the thought of someone else's way of doing things can bring with it a ton of anxiety and a ton of stress. But here's the thing. That's an issue with trust. Yeah, you may find it difficult to trust your partner, but the real issue is that you don't trust yourself. If you continually work towards a goal, but you keep pushing the finish line back and back and back and back and back, you begin to lose trust in yourself to achieve what you set out to do. The fifth thing here is procrastination and commitment. Perfectionism is one of the main reasons people struggle to commit. Why? Because the fear of making the wrong choice. You will wait and wait for the perfect person to come around, but the reality is that person doesn't exist. Everyone has their issues. Everyone has their flaws, their personality quirks, their belief systems, but that's what makes relationships so special, right? You are presented with the opportunity to step outside of yourself, to learn about somebody else and to turn that mirror onto yourself and to learn something new about yourself. So if you are waiting for the perfect person to come along, you will miss out on a lot of opportunities for connection and love. The sixth thing here is a work-life balance, right? You probably suck at it. Sorry to say it that way, but if you're a perfectionist, you probably suck at work-life balance. And a relationship requires an investment of time, an investment of your time, right? Obviously, it requires your partner to invest the time and the energy as well. But I have a feeling that the person with the time management issues here is you if you are the perfectionist. And listen, I get it. I invest a lot of hours into my business because I'm in the process of growing, right, my coaching practice. But I recognize I need to carve out time for myself and for my partner if I want the relationship to work and if I want to be able to maintain any sense of sanity for myself as well. Being a person who has ADHD, it can be very difficult to manage my time well. And a big part of that also is because of those perfectionist tendencies, wanting to be perfect at what I do, wanting to have the perfect looking website, wanting to make sure that every piece of content that I'm putting out there is perfect and the information is relevant and educational and research based and backed and all of these things. And it takes a lot of hours to do those things. So finding that balance is really, really important. The seventh thing here is avoidance of conflict. You may be a powerhouse at work and be willing to have all the difficult conversations in the world, or maybe not. But when it comes to your personal life, perfectionists have a tendency of being avoidant. And why? If you have to confront real life issues that represent failure in your mind, the facade of the perfect life you've created comes crashing down. So you prefer to avoid the hard conversations with your partner or the people you are dating. Instead of sitting down and having a clarifying conversation, you ghost, or you just don't have the conversation at all, right? Instead of working through the frustration or the frustrating experience with your partner, you bury your head in work. And here's the thing. That avoidance will likely lead to another failed relationship, which is further reinforcing that mindset of, well, they're just not the one. And it keeps you in this perpetual search for the perfect match, which again, will never come. The eighth thing is self-criticism, right? So constantly feeling inadequate and striving for perfection can lead to low self-esteem. It makes it hard to believe that you're worthy of love and affection. That level of self-doubt can invalidate your feelings and lead to a breakdown of relationships. So this is often a self-sabotaging mechanism that you have running to validate the feeling that you are not good enough. You know, why would somebody want to be with you anyway if you aren't even happy with yourself? You know, you really got to think about that for a second. And I don't mean to say that in a mean way, in a demeaning way, in a belittling way, not at all, right? Because I see the value in you. I see the value in people that I talk to on a day-to-day basis. You have to see the value in yourself. And maybe your partner sees the value in you as well, but they can only validate and support for so long until you have to kind of take the torch and carry it for yourself. The ninth thing here is the need for control. So the desire to control all aspects of the relationship can kill spontaneity and the mutual decision-making that's necessary for a relationship to work. And what this does is it leads your partner to feel like they are dominated in the relationship. And listen, being dominated in certain settings is not a bad thing, okay? In fact, it can be super sexy, but the difference is in the motivation and the level of confidence that is present. So for example, dominating your partner in the bedroom for the purposes of pleasing them and expressing yourself without restricting often comes from a place of confidence, right? There's that like deep, that's there, that's super hot. But needing to control the relationship or what your partner says or does, how things are done, comes from a place of insecurity. And the 10th thing here is the inability to enjoy the present. Focusing on flaws and what could be better can prevent you from enjoying the present moment and appreciating the positive aspects of your relationship. So, how do you start to date in a healthy way, right? As a perfectionist, how do you change some of these patterns of behavior? The first one is you got to set realistic expectations. Understand that no one, including yourself, is perfect. So accepting imperfections in both yourself and your partner can help to create a more realistic and satisfying relationship. The second thing here is you got to embrace vulnerability. Allow yourself to open up and be honest with your partner about your fears, your flaws, your insecurities. Vulnerability helps to create a deeper emotional connection and build trust. The third thing here is you have to practice some self-compassion. Be kind to yourself when things don't go perfectly, right? Recognize your achievements and strengths and understand that making mistakes is a natural part of life. The fourth thing here is focus on the present. Enjoy the moment and appreciate the positive aspects of your relationship. Avoid dwelling on past mistakes or worrying excessively about the future. And I know that all of this is easier said than done, but there are techniques you can implement, and I will attach some information in the description that I think would be super helpful for you when it comes to being more present, right? The fifth thing here is communicate openly. Share your feelings and your thoughts with your partner about your fears, right? And expect or anticipate that they will hear you out without judgment. That's why they're your partner, right? Open communication can help address issues before they escalate, which is usually the major problem in relationships. It builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up. And before you know it, it's this mountain of an issue that seems impossible to climb, right? Remember, your partner is with you for a reason. The sixth thing here is accept feedback. Be open to constructive criticism from your partner and use it as an opportunity to grow rather than viewing it as a personal failure. Who better than your partner to share their observations? Who better than your partner than to be there and to support you through that process and to give you good critiques and share with you their experience of being in a relationship with you for you to learn and grow. Of course, if it's in a healthy way, right? If it's a negative and in a toxic way and they put you down and all of those things, it's a totally different conversation, but a supportive partner, right? There are ways you can begin to approach this. If you've never been good with feedback, one way is to be honest. Hey, I'm not very good with feedback or criticism, so please be patient with me while I try to be more open, right? If you preface the conversation with that, then at least that gives you your partner, fair warning that you may not necessarily handle the conversation very well, but you are trying. The seventh thing here is practice flexibility. Be willing to adapt and compromise. Understand that relationships involve give and take. That's just the way that it is, right? And this rigidity can really hinder growth and harmony within the relationship. You can start by acknowledging there's a need for change and begin with small, low-stake compromises and see where it goes, right? Try to see things from your partner's perspective. And if you struggle with this, then maybe ask them for a little bit of clarification. Maybe ask them for a little bit of guidance and support through that process. The eighth thing here is prioritize emotional connection. Plain and simple, right? Focusing on building a strong emotional bond. Rather than just kind of achieving these external markers for success in your relationship is going to be incredibly important. And a good way to start doing this is through their utilization of tools like the Gottman couples cards, which I think are incredibly great, a great way for you to connect with your partner. If you have not yet, I would highly recommend downloading them. You can find them in the Apple Store, or I'm not sure, maybe if you don't have an Apple phone, I'm sure there's got to be a store for you to be able to download apps. Check out the Gottman couples card decks. No, I'm not sponsored by Gottman. It's just something that I have found to be incredibly helpful for my relationship as well. Maybe you do some small getaways with your partner where it's just the two of you in a place away from your usual social circle and routine and all of those things for you to be able to reconnect. The ninth thing here is seek balance. Balance your personal goals and your relationship needs, right? Make time for your partner and nurture your relationship alongside your personal ambitions. As a perfectionist, you probably live by your calendar, meaning things that you schedule hold value. And as crazy as this may sound, start scheduling time with your partner. This reprioritizes your relationship and brings more value to it. And I know that sounds freaking nuts because a relationship shouldn't, putting it on a calendar should not bring value to your relationship. But if you are somebody who lives by your calendar, like I said, you put value on the things that are on your calendar. So it's an initial way of you kind of shifting your mindset and refocusing and reprioritizing the relationship. And as objective and detached as this may sound, over time, it will become more organic and more natural as you start to connect with them more and more and more and more. And that connection will feel good and lead to you wanting more and more and more, ideally. The 10th thing here is seek support, right? Consider therapy if there's certain deep traumas or wounds that you need to work through. You can also consider coaching. I work with clients all the time who have perfectionist tendencies and are trying to work through that perfectionism to feel more fulfilled and to improve their relationship and their self-esteem. Either one, I think, is great. Just try to reach out to somebody or a group or something to help you with those things. Something to keep in mind is that sometimes perfectionism can be due to an underlying condition as well, right? So ADHD, OCD, a traumatic event, or whatever the case may be. And as a coach, it is my responsibility to ensure that you are getting the proper support you need to grow as a person. So if I feel there is something more serious lingering under the surface, I will 100% recommend that you partner with a licensed clinical psychologist to help you through that process. I hope you guys found this episode to be helpful. I know that was a lot of information that I threw at you very quickly. I am Cuban. I cannot help it. I speak very fast. So if you need to, lower the speed so that you can hear it maybe at regular speed. Anyways, hope you guys found it helpful. If you guys enjoyed the episode, if you found it educational, please make sure you are subscribing, you are sharing, and you are leaving a comment down below. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.